Hey, good morning, kids. How are y'all doing today? It is Monday, March 30th, and we are starting in our Bible story readings for this week. Every single day, we're going to read the Bible together. And today, we're going to be reading Job chapter 1, verses 1 through 5. We are getting ready to go into the story of a man named Job. He's got a whole book of the Bible named after him. So let's read together. Grab your Bibles, open up to Job chapter 1, and we're going to read the very first 5 verses. And we're going to get to know a little bit of who this guy named Job is. So here we go. Job chapter 1, verses 1 through 5. There was a man in the land of Uz whose name was Job, and that man was blameless and upright, one who feared God and turned away from evil. There were born to him 7 sons and 3 daughters. Whoa, he's got 10 kids. Wow. He possessed 7,000 sheep. 7,000 sheep. Holy cow. 3,000 camels, 500 yoke of oxen, and 500 female donkeys, and very many servants, so that this man named Job was the greatest of all the people in the East. His sons used to go and hold a feast in the house of each one on his day, basically like having a nice birthday party. And they would send and invite their sisters, their whole family, to have a great party with everyone. And when the days of the feast had run their course, Job would send and consecrate them. And he would rise early in the morning and offer burnt offerings according to the number of them all. For Job said, "It may be that my children have sinned and cursed God in their hearts." Thus Job did continually. So we learn a whole lot about who this guy named Job is, and we're going to be learning so much more about him throughout this whole book of the Bible that we're going to be reading in the book of Job. But a couple things that really stand out. Number one, Job was a rich man. He owned a lot of animals: 7,000 sheep, 3,000 camels, 500 yoke of oxen, 500 female donkeys, and very many servants. This guy must have had like his own village where he had all of these people that served him and took care of him and his family, and all of the animals he had. Could you imagine having to clean up all of that animal poop all the time, every single day? Job certainly wasn't going to be able to do it. So he had tons of people helping him take care of the animals, feeding them, doing all the things that he needed to have done to care for his children, his family, and all the animals he had. Now, the second thing we see about Job is that he feared God. What does that mean, fear God? Well, that means that we trust, honor, and we respect God for who he is. It kind of means that in some ways we need to be reverent, which means that we need to have a very special kind of awe, A-W-E, awe for who God is. Have you ever looked at the mountains at a sunset or the beach at a sunset? You stand in amazement at awe of the mighty mountains and the mighty ocean. And our God is the creator of everything. And so we need to learn what it means to fear him. That means we know how holy he is, how perfect he is, and that he wants us to know him for who he truly is. And Job was a man who feared God. That means he walked according to God's ways too. He did what God commanded him to do. He trusted him completely. And then the third thing we see is that Job offered sacrifices to cover over the sins of his own children. See, we've read in the Old Testament that sacrifices were ways in which God's people would basically say that they're sorry for their wrongdoing and what they did to offend God and break his rules. And so these parties that his children had, I don't know if they were really great parties or not. We don't quite know from the passage what kind of parties these were like, but they were these feasts, they were these parties, and we just need to know that Job cared so much about his kids that he would intercede before them on their behalf to offer sacrifices and to make sure that his children were living holy and righteous lives before God. Now, throughout the rest of the book of Job, we're going to be learning so much more about his life. This whole story, there's going to be some parts where it's going to seem like it's pretty sad, but we need to know that God is in control over this whole story and what we're going to be learning about as we read through the book of Job together. But the most important thing for today is to know that we are called to fear God, that we're called to trust God, that we're called to honor God with our lives. And we do that by praying, by being in the Bible, by being obedient to what he's called us to do, and ultimately by trusting in his son Jesus for what he has done for us on the cross, by dying in our place for our sin and giving us new life as we trust and believe in him. So, 3 things we learned about Job. Number 1, he's a rich man, had a lot of animals, had a lot of servants. Number 2, he feared God. And number 3, he was a great father who loved his children and even interceded for them on their behalf. So let's continue to read through the book of Job this week, and I'll see you guys tomorrow.